Welcome to a Legendarium special about health and hygiene in the court of Henry VIII. In this installment, we will be talking about how the Tudors kept clean and healthy, or at least tried to. We don't often think about Tudor England as a particularly hygienic place, but they cared about cleanliness more than some give them credit for. The technology of the time and the challenges of providing sewage and rubbish disposal for a growing population hampered them, to be sure. Yet this does not mean that they did not try to keep themselves and their houses clean. King Henry's court knew of the connection between filth and disease, even if the common person did not have that luxury. First, servants covered the floors with rushes, which kept the floor warm and dry and wicked away dirt and moisture, which is a good thing because people sometimes relieved themselves on them, which made changing them every few days a must. When Queen Catherine of Aragon first came to Henry's court, she had to issue orders that stopped men from relieving themselves in the fireplaces, which royally stunk up the place. In alehouses and drinking halls across the land, working men and travelers did the same, and often onto a brick floor laid on a dirt base. If nothing else, the liquid would seep through the joints and then soak away in the earth. And of course, bowel evacuations took place in outhouses, often built far from domiciles, as they attracted swarms of flies and didn't smell especially nice. During Henry's rule, sugar remained rare, which meant better dental hygiene. For a sweetener, prince and peasant alike used honey, which did not promote tooth decay like sugar did. With no access to sugar, Henry's court sported teeth of surprising whiteness and health. That is fortunate, for dentistry had not advanced much since the Romans. Barber surgeons specialized in basic medicine like bloodletting, bone setting, and tooth removal, which they did with pliers. Queen Elizabeth so dreaded the thought of having a rotten tooth pulled that a bishop volunteered to have one extracted to prove it could be endured. Tooth pullers traveled the kingdom as carnival shows and variety acts, with much hoopla and music. Dressed in outlandish costumes, they had assistants volunteer to have pre-removed teeth removed, seemingly proving that their magic could remove an offensive tooth quickly and without pain. Of course, if real people showed up, musicians covered up the screams of their patients as they removed teeth, often with far more pain. Many of these charlatans left a trail of broken teeth and infections behind them, and did further harm by selling quack medicines to gullible patients. One of the most infamous diseases in Henry's court was gout, a form of arthritis which can cause sudden attacks of pain, swelling, and joint tenderness, especially at the base of the big toe. It is caused by high levels of uric acid in the blood and associated with too much red meat. Unsurprisingly, the carnivorous diet of Henry's court, which included pork, lamb, venison, and duck, meant that many suffered from it. Indeed, some flaunted their gout as a status symbol, since only the rich could afford that much meat. Treatments for gout could be outlandish, including wrapping the affected foot in flannel or serving the patient a roast duck stuffed with a cooked kitten. Thankfully, most Tudor medicine consisted of herbal remedies. A mixture of sage, lavender, and marjoram treated headache, chamomile eased stomach aches, and feverfew helped with high temperatures. Most villages had a wise woman who grew herbs in her garden. Of course, other Tudor medicines could be outlandish. Doctors cured smallpox by hanging red curtains around the patient's bed, and treated jaundice by having the patient drink a mixture of ale and lice. Bleeding was a common practice to remove the supposed bad blood, and since surgeons simply threw blood and urine out the window, their streets reeked. Henry's personal facilities included indoor plumbing that made frequent bathing possible. Henry and his court traveled from house to house on a schedule that was limited mainly by the amount of water that could be supplied to each location for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. To allow for more frequent travel, work crews overhauled and updated many of the royal residences. That included work on the king's personal chambers. His bathrooms at Hampton Court, the Tower of London, Windsor, and Newhall received massive bathtubs fed by hot and cold taps. Nearby springs fed the taps, and some connected to cisterns and ran through small rooms used solely for heating the king's bath water. In 1529, Henry VIII ordered a new bathroom built on the first floor of Bain Tower. This Hampton Court luxury suite included an office and strongroom, a bedroom, bathroom, and private study, along with a library and jewel house. It had deep window seats with cupboards beneath and a ceiling decorated with gold battens against a white background. While we do not know how often Henry VIII bathed, court literature cared enough about bath water to recommend infusing it with rosemary, sage, and orange peel. Of course, not everyone could afford the royal bath, but Henry's government oversaw the installation of public sewers, sourced public water supplies, and during times of plague ordered the separation of infected citizens. Most Tudors wishing to bathe would have to line a wooden tub with sheets, collect buckets of water, heat the water by the fireplace, and then fill the tub. This long and laborious process kept most people from bathing daily, but they could still wash faces and hands from a bucket. Court ladies used scented soaps made with olive oil called Castile soap for their daily wash. Of course, only the rich could afford this imported soap, so the middling sort used soap balls made from grated soap and herbs, which at least smelled nice. While washing clothes still proved a monumental task, most people, rich and poor, wore linen undergarments washed more regularly than their outer wear. Tudors regarded clean undergarments as a sign of good standing and character. The hardest time of year for them would have been summer, when people sweat themselves sticky and had to frequently change their linen smocks. To keep themselves clean and healthy, many followed their physician's advice to exercise regularly, eat in moderation, and wipe themselves down with clean cloths on a regular basis. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.